Good afternoon, everyone. My name is April Fair, and I'm the Marketing Manager at Gotham Technology Group. I'm your host for today's session and want to thank you all for joining us. On the webinar from Gotham, we have Andrew Meyer, Senior Director of Professional Services, to walk you through today's content. We also have Brian Wagner and Hank Smith, Principal Architects, as well as Bob Sarah, Program Manager, Managed Services. Before we begin, I want to review a few housekeeping items. To start, the webinar will run about 45 minutes and will include a Q&A session at the end. We will be recording the webinar in listen-only mode, which means you will be muted for the entirety of the presentation to avoid outside interruptions. During this time, please input your questions into the Q&A box on the left side of your screen and press enter. All questions will be addressed at the end. As a reminder, we are raffling off a Google Home after today's session, and the winner will be notified by email. Thanks again for joining, and Andy, please feel free to get started.
Great, thanks, April. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for spending some time with us today. We're going to spend some time going through Gotham's managed service offerings, talk a little bit about how we provide them to customers, what it is that we do. We're going to go through a demonstration of our Gotham Watch monitoring platform. That's really core to all of the services that we provide. We're going to talk about how we onboard customers and how the services are flexible and really powerful and can really be customized to your environment. Then we're going to talk about our patch management as a service as well. We'll do a little demonstration of that. And then we're going to have a little discussion and open up the floor for questions and answers. So one thing we just want to show is some of the customers that really do take advantage of our managed services, right? I think we've got a cross section of different industries, whether it's manufacturing or pharmaceutical or consulting or healthcare or finance. A number of different customers trust us with their environments, and we manage it for them on a 24/7 basis. Many of our offerings were born out of our consulting services organization. Gotham Technology Group's long been a strong player in the virtualization and security space, and we've really got a long legacy of securely providing applications to end users. And the way we do that is through our partnerships with Citrix and with VMware and with Microsoft. And being able to deliver those applications or desktops to endpoints and end users is something that we've always excelled at from a project perspective. Following up successful project delivery, many of our customers came to us and said, hey, we'd love for you to manage this for us on an ongoing basis. So we started out doing 24/7 support for customers and then came around to doing a fully managed service for them, where we're providing not only operational support on a day-to-day basis, but ongoing management and maintenance, as well as that 24/7 monitoring and support. Our remote admin offering is that fully managed service, right? We provide it for people who use both Citrix XenApp and XenDesktop, as well as VMware's Horizon View. Everything that we do includes that unlimited support and also includes support for NetScaler if you use that device to access your environment as well. Gotham Watch is our 24/7 support platform. We have an alert-based infrastructure that's agentless, and we're going to go through some of the architecture there. Brian Wagner will take you through that. You're going to see some dashboards that we've created for our customers that they really get a lot of feature functionality out of. So enjoying the power of that. And lastly, we're going to talk about patch management as a service. We deliver patch management as part of our remote admin offering. We also offer it as a standalone service for both PCs and servers. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So just to jump right into the remote admin service, right? We're doing daily tasks. We're updating the image as needed. If there's any changes to published applications or installed applications, we'll do that work with you, for you, whatever works for your organization. On a day-to-day basis, we're doing event log management and alert management. We're managing that queue, going through the remediation efforts that we've identified as part of the alert process, and really providing that kind of insightful knowledge that we have as a deep consulting services organization. We deliver weekly reports of the environment, what's going on as far as open tickets, what the health of the environment is like, what open tasks might be there for our staff to handle, and we're doing performance management of the environment all the time, right? Trying to tune the environment to get you the best performance possible. And we'll show you some of those dashboards as well. Included as well as part of remote admin. Again, it includes 24/7 support, and will include a couple of .release upgrades for either the Xen desktop version, Horizon View, or for NetScaler. So if there's a need to do an upgrade throughout the year, we're going to work with you on that as well. So these are just some of the tasks that we include as part of remote admin, right? And I think a lot of the value that we provide, right? We're totally onshore. We're not some, bunch of entry-level people in a call center somewhere taking your calls and reading from a script. These are the same certified and field experienced individuals that do the project work at your organization. We have a very wide breadth of coverage in terms of what we can provide for you. So we manage everything from the hypervisor up through the application, and then helping you deploy out to whatever endpoints might be involved. It includes the Gotham Watch monitoring, includes the daily health and availability monitoring. If you have a situation where you use, again, these VDI infrastructure to potentially onboard a new acquisition, for example, or you have seasonal employees that you need to spin up a few hundred desktops on a custom image, that's work we'll do for you, included as part of this service. So very flexible there. You're able to contact us via telephone, via email, and via custom apps that we have for handheld devices. Pretty powerful stuff there. On the SLA side, right, there's SLAs for support. When you call in with an emergency issue, there are custom SLAs that we provide for that, and different severity levels that go with it. Generally, it's a 2-hour response, and Bob Serra is going to go through a little more of how we classify severity levels. Again, very flexible for your organization. And then there are task-based SLAs that we provide, some of which you see here, right? Whether we're managing your environment on an ongoing basis, if we're doing that kind of upgrade work, if we have to deploy a new application, we want to add a NetScaler VIP, right? That's a very common task that we do it. And we 95% of the time, we're far exceeding these SLAs. We're very conformative to your change control process, right? We don't come in and tell you how to do things. We come in and ask you, how is it you like to control change? How is it, what does your change review board look like? What types of windows do you need to subscribe to? We have some customers that have very infrequent change windows, as I'm sure some of you do, and we're flexible enough to adapt to that and still keep them current and secure and take the operations headache off of their plate. Remote admin for NetScaler, again, is a very popular offering that we have for customers. Depending on what level of NetScaler you may have invested in, we support all of the features that are included with that level of investment that you've made in the NetScaler platform. So as you can see, I won't dive into these, but whether you're a standard enterprise or platinum customer, all of those different devices, all of those different features within the platform are covered as part of the service. So we've got a lot of different NetScaler resources available to you. We're really seeing a lot of traction with this offering as well. It's tough to keep, NetScaler skills on staff, right? So leave it to the experts. And again, everything that we're providing, it doesn't matter if your data center is in your facility, if it's in a co-location facility, or if it's in the cloud. We're managing environments in all of those different scenarios and situations. So we've got skills and experience, and we can tell you how to make it work in any of them. Everything that we do is really built on the foundation of Gotham Watch. And Gotham Watch is a program and a tool that allows us to proactively monitor your environment 24/7, generate meaningful alerts that are actionable, and deliver ongoing and historical information about your environment, the performance and the availability thereof. So there's a lot of different things that we do for customers as far as doing daily availability checks, right? We have somebody come in at 7 o'clock, they log into customers' environments, they check that desktops are available, they log into desktops, they check that applications execute, and all of these things happen both in an automated fashion as well as having people and eyes on screens, right? It's not just something we script and leave it to a machine. We've got people who are in there looking at it. So not only utilizing our custom scripts, but also leveraging Gotham Watch as a platform. So here to tell you a little bit more about Gotham Watch and walk you through some of the screens is Brian Wagner, Principal Architect. Brian?
Thanks, everybody. This is Brian Wagner. Let's take a deep dive into Gotham Watch. So as Andy had mentioned before, Gotham Watch is an agentless monitoring solution. It consists of typically a server in each data center. That server's in charge of gathering the data from all the infrastructure components in that data center. And it uses various means to do that, depending on what we're actually getting data from. We can, if it's maybe the Citrix environment, Windows servers and Citrix layer, we might look at WMI and PowerShell to grab data from Studio and Director. If it's a NetScaler, it can leverage XenApp and some Nitro to gather data from there. If it's, let's say, Virtual Center or storage platforms that might use a combination of APIs and other things. But the goal is to get all that data into our platform. Once it's at, server gathers that data, it uploads it up to the cloud where it's available for us for up to a year. Once it's in the cloud, that's where things like correlation, alerting, and dashboarding becomes available. So just to kind of walk through a couple sample dashboards that we have. This one is specifically around XenApp and XenDesktop. Okay, it's an overview. We've taken our knowledge of XenApp and XenDesktop and basically created these dashboards to highlight some areas that are of interest, right? So things that are important in the environment, like the controllers, how are they doing from a CPU and memory perspective? Other areas such as maybe ICA latency, right? Are there particular users that are having a problem around latency? Things like disk space, top offenders for disk space. But in addition, we're looking at just general usage information, how many sessions for each delivery group, what does the publish application usage look like, how many connections do we see on XenApp and XenDesktop, what are our top 10 worst offenders for CPU within the XenApp and XenDesktop environment. And also we're monitoring and tracking logon times and some other key health statistics around maybe connection failures, machine failures, how the connection to the hypervisor is from a status perspective, and also the status of all the key services within Citrix. Next one I'll show you is around the NetScaler. Most of our customers are using the NetScaler to provide access to their Citrix environment, and some customers are using the NetScaler much broader ways, right? Providing load balancing for key applications in the environment. So this is another dashboard that kind of highlights some of that important data. So we have the CPU usage and, kind of raw stuff at the NetScaler level, but then we have also, kind of feature usage, right? What is compression doing? How many hits on particular policies? How many connections from the server perspective and the client side? What kind of traffic are we seeing on the NetScalers? And beyond that, how many people are connected over the VPN versus ICA, and how that tracks over time? Which load balance VIPs are getting the most traffic? Which ones are getting the most requests and are being used? And again, certificate status, looking at any status around that. If they're coming down to a point where we need to start worrying about it, those things will turn yellow and eventually red as we get closer to expiration. Looking at the load balance VIPs and the service group and services behind them, we can see the status around that. So, if a single server goes down behind a VIP, our service or service group will turn yellow or red, depending on what the situation is there, and alerts would go out. So anything you see in all these dashboards, we can, there are some default thresholds for alerts, and we work with our customers to even further tweak that if we need to. Now, when we look at a Citrix environment, there's a couple other components of the infrastructure that are critical. SQL is one of them. It's the data store for the management console. And this is just an example of some of the data that we can get around SQL. Probably most of the people who are attending this now are more infrastructure people, not necessarily DBAs. But the point is that we get data here that is pertinent to not only infrastructure, but also at the database level that a DBA would want to see. We have the capability of giving these dashboards to the DBAs and sending them alerts when things go wrong. So we have, again, built-in default alerting around some of these things like maybe SQL locks or other areas that maybe most of us probably wouldn't understand, but it's something that we could take to the DBA and say, hey, it seems like something's going on here. So very specific data. And on top of that, we don't need to go in and kind of tell which servers are running SQL, right, when we start monitoring. It's actually going to pick up the fact that SQL is running on that. It's going to pick up the fact that IIS might be running on that. So from those areas, we're able to kind of make sure that we're capturing all the important data in the environment. And speaking of IIS, this is the web server overview. So this is where we see things like CPU usage, memory usage, response time for HTTP and HTTPS requests, uptime, how many connections are going on within IIS from a server and client perspective, throughput. So just another example of detailed data we're getting. Storefront is an important aspect also of the infrastructure, and we want to make sure we have the appropriate monitoring for those layers. The last dashboard I'll show you is around Virtual Center. I'd say a large share, 90% plus, probably run their environments on top of a VMware infrastructure. And this is the data that we're able to gather using the APIs calling into Virtual Center for Gotham Watch. So we're able to look at, what are the top hosts from a CPU utilization perspective. Same thing on the memory side. And at the cluster level, we're getting data there too. But we're even getting deeper at the host level and even at the VM level. So we're able to gather data of what Virtual Center sees, look at things around maybe the top VMs by CPU ready. It's sometimes an indicator of things that are not getting enough CPU time. Also high-level stats, right? How many VMs are powered on right now? How many are powered off? What is the data store utilization? And any existing status level errors here, right, around the hosts or the network or the data stores. So what I'm going to do is hand this back to Andy, and Andy will go through the next steps, but thanks for looking at that.
Thanks, Brian. So as you can see, it's a very powerful platform, very flexible, very customizable. We can create these dashboards and customize them to be, whatever it is that's important to you. We can get very detailed dashboards on your screen and provide your management with more high-level type dashboards, more management level metrics that are important to them. So I think it's really a great offering and a very powerful tool. So we've talked so far about people, right? We've talked about the skills of the folks that provide the service. We've talked about tools, right? So people, tools. The last piece is process, right? People, tools, and process. And Bob Serra is going to talk to you about how we bring customers on and how we manage them over time. Bob?
Thanks, Andy. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to take a few minutes to go through Gotham's onboarding process, our service levels, and how we build these out to align with your organization. So as you can see on the chart, the onboarding process seems fairly complex and lengthy. But what we've done is we've broken it up into different swim lanes so that we can work on these parallel work streams to onboard you quickly. The first column on the left there just shows our Gotham onboarding internal processes that we do to get you set up in our systems so that we can get started on day one. So let's go ahead and focus on what it means from your perspective. So for the customer onboarding, on day one, you'll receive a contact support information for your support remote admin services. So although we haven't fully onboarded you yet, you are entitled to those services that you contracted for immediately. We're also going to get an inventory of your environment and start documenting that out as well. We'll plan for the support and alert escalations that you have, and we'll review your change management policies to make sure that we comply with your internal processes. Then we'll begin the Gotham Watch installation. Gotham staff, as Brian mentioned, will install this collector server in your data center. It's a Windows server. We'll provide you those system requirements before we start so that we're ready to go on day one. Once the server is set up, we'll start adding the devices, and that allows us to baseline your environment. What that means is that we're collecting data, we can see the alerts coming in, and we can start to adjust those thresholds that Brian mentioned to make sure that we align with how you want your environment monitored and what's important to you. After that, we'll also create custom dashboards, and we're going to configure the alert escalation chains that go along with the monitoring system. That also brings us to this, now that the services are in place, we can start providing you with the support desk and remote admin services. So we're going to do daily health checks of your environment. We're actively monitoring all the alert levels that are coming in. Those are errors, warnings, and critical alerts, as Brian mentioned. And then we're going to advise you on any preventative actions you may take based on those. So while the critical alerts are important and dictate an emergency, we're looking at the errors and warnings all day long and we can provide you with preventative actions to remediate anything that goes on there. We're also going to perform the remote admin task, and behind the scenes, we're also remediating any of your support incidents. All of this leads to our reporting system. So we'll provide a bi-weekly incident activity report. What that does is that helps us to look at any kind of trends or things that are going on in your environment, and we can go through those, and we can use that as a tool to clean up anything that needs to on that side. We're going to look at the alert trends that you're having. And again, once again, that will help us to be proactive in toning down anything that we need to in your environment and being proactive. We have health reports that we can look at from Gotham Watch that will give us, some of your system's health. And then there's also reports for our patch management and our Gotham TAM services. That's a basic overview of how we onboard your environment. So let's get into talking about our severity levels. So we have some standard ones defined, as Andy mentioned before. Our severity 1 is defined as a critical alert in which all systems are down and there's no workaround in place. Our severity 2 is defined as a system operations are reduced in a reduced capacity, workaround is in place, but productivity is adversely affected. Our severity 3 is a partial non-critical loss of functionality, and it's only affecting a single or a small group of users. And our severity 4 is really reserved for our remote admin tasks, projects, general questions, and things that we do along those lines. So what I like to do is step through and show you how we build out an escalation chain process for each of these and tailor them to your environment. This is a sample of our severity 1 escalation chain. So what it identifies there is how we go about getting that incident reported. Usually it's coming from an end user, or it's an alert from our Gotham Watch system. So in these cases, we detail on how we communicate back and forth with your organization and us when that request comes in. So it's either coming from you or it's coming from us. Once we've got that incident reported, we begin working on it. We'll work with your team to deal with any emergency change management that has to be sent out. We'll also deal with any communications within your organization to senior management as well as the end user community. And then the remediation process is going on. So once that's done, again, there'll be communications back and forth, back out to the end user community and senior management, and resolving the incident. And the severity 2 escalation is very similar to a Sev 1. The internal communications may differ. Some of them may be toned down a bit based on the alert and what's involved in there, but pretty much the support process is the same. In our severity 3 process, what we want to highlight here is the escalation that goes on. So the call may come into your organization first. Your folks on your end may attempt to resolve that, and if not, they're going to escalate that to Gotham. So once we have that and we're working on that with you, we'll make sure that there might be any communication that goes to the specific users or groups that are involved in it. And then we'll also, after the problem is remediated, we'll also work with you to update your internal help desk ticket systems with that resolution so that you can have that as a record. And again, as we said, the severity 4 is about working with our remote admin tasks, some general questions, and remote admin services. There really is no impact to business functions there. So what we'll do is we highlight how we go through that process, and then working with you to implement that within a dev environment, and possibly moving that up to a production environment, and the change management processes that you may have that go along with all that as well. So as Andy mentioned before, we're quite flexible in how we deal with your organization and detailing that out and building that to your environment. That's a quick summary of what we have so far for our severities and our onboarding process. So thanks, Andy.
Perfect, Bob. Thank you. So hopefully you can see here, right, there's a lot of information. We've put a lot of thought into how we, most easily streamline these escalation processes for your organization. Again, very flexible, very customizable. and we can react however you need us to react. The last thing we're going to go through is our patch management as a service. Hank Smith's going to take you through that. So we have a lot of customers who have audit requirements. You know, everybody wants to stay secure, and that starts with a good patching program. However, things being how they are and business being how it is, from time to time goes by, you miss a patching schedule, you miss a window, other priorities take place. You try and push patches that break things, and you don't really necessarily have time to figure out why. Customers have been coming to us because they've seen the value in how we provide patching for our remote admin customers, and they say, hey, can you do that patch management for us on an ongoing basis? And the answer is yes. So Hank's going to take you through some of the functionality of that, and then we'll be back in just a minute. Hank?
Great. Thank you, Andy. Good morning, everyone. I will walk you through our patch management as a service offering. The patch management as a service offering is a cloud-based solution. The only requirement is an internal Windows-based server that acts as a cloud connector along with the patch engine. The solution is primarily agentless, so much along the lines of the Gotham Watch solution. However, there is an agent option should you have any machines such as laptops that are offline for a certain amount of time. We could patch those as well. The onboarding process includes taking an inventory of your current Windows-based servers and desktops that are in scope. Once we have that inventory, we go over with various patch management schedules and maintenance windows that align with your change control process. We then normalize those servers and desktops, which really brings them up to the latest patch level. In certain cases, what we've seen is that servers and desktops haven't been patched in quite some time, so we want to get them to the point that they're normalized. We then go over, as far as groups are concerned, as far as patchings of servers specifically, for example, like SQL servers and domain controllers. We want to make sure we patch those in accordance with the various application servers that are dependent on those. Once this patching schedule has been defined, we'll, of course, deploy the patches based upon the change control process, and we'll report on either success or failures of those patches. We will also provide a certain amount of smoke testing for the application access once the patches are installed. So we'll work with your team as far as that's concerned to maybe log on to a server, log on to a Citrix environment, for example, just to validate that indeed the server, and more importantly, the environment and its dependencies are operational. In addition to the monthly patching, we offer Microsoft zero-day patching. So in the event that Microsoft does release a zero-day patch, we'll work with your team as soon as possible to deploy the patches to the desktops or servers, or specifically Windows operating system that requires that patch. I will now demo the patching solution for a single desktop and walk you through that process. So here's our interface. Again, this is all cloud-based. I'll start with the patch manager interface here and flip it just to the Microsoft updates. So there could be a patch that's defined within your organization that might be not working so well with a SQL server or a Citrix server, so we could decline that patch if we like. So that's where we would do this specific action. So in this case, we're going to patch, like I mentioned, a single desktop. So we're going to go to the devices. In this case, we already have an inventory of laptops and servers and desktops. So we're going to go ahead and pick a laptop in this case. When we select this laptop, the patch management solution will actually tell us, based upon, in this case, it does have an agent installed, if there's any critical vulnerabilities or possible vulnerabilities. From there, I've set up a task based on a maintenance window that will actually scan, deploy, and implement those patches, although it will not reboot the specific machine in this case. So we'll go to the maintenance window here, and eventually the task will come up. And you'll see here that it is based on a maintenance window, which as I scroll to the right, you'll see is every Tuesday or Monday through Friday, 2:45 p.m. And again, this is desktop and this is all customizable. Of course, we'd probably be doing your servers on the weekend during your normal change control process. So in this specific example, we have this GTG HS maintenance window that we'll be patching Monday through Friday, as mentioned before. Once the patching is complete, we'll run a report for any of the Windows-based servers and desktops that have been patched. The report will show the device and the patches that were installed and if it was successful or if it failed. We will also troubleshoot if a certain patch failed and go into that in more effort as far as trying to correct that issue. And from there, I'm going to hand it back to Andy just to go over some value points on the patch management as a service offering.
Thanks, Hank. Yeah, so you can see it's a pretty powerful system there. Very flexible, lightweight. We're able to patch things that are offline if necessary. Very simple to schedule. Very feature rich in terms of what you can patch and how you can schedule things and verify. Obviously, there's a lot of services out there that you could subscribe to directly. And we like to say pushing patches is easy and fixing what breaks is hard, right? It's not the easy patches that give you headaches. It's the ones that are going to break an app or break a desktop or, disrupt communications. That's going to be a problem. All servers are validated, right, with a login verification there, all the processes and schedule to customize to suit whatever it is you need. And, our message is leave the patching to the Windows experts, right? It's a very cost-effective solution. If that's something that you'd like to invest in with us, please, we'd love to come and talk to you about that. So that's really all we've got today as far as presenting material to you. We're going to go ahead and open up Q&A. There is a questions tab there if you'd like to enter a question. We've got a few we're going to jump into right away. Please feel free to jump in and ask another one while we're doing that. Someone has asked, what levels of Citrix certification does your staff have? We actually have quite a few. So there's a number, the highest levels of architect and engineering certifications are held by about up to 20 individuals on staff, and we've got 25 Citrix-certified people overall. As an organization, we hold 4 different specializations with Citrix, which is all that they offer. We're a platinum solutions provider with them and have been so for a very long time. On the VMware side, we hold a very high level of certification with them as well. We've got about half as many certified individuals, only because just the permanent, the depth of work there is not as great. We're just, in all candor, we do more Citrix work than we do VMware work, but applications and Windows are what they are in either world. So tons of Citrix certifications there. Another question, do you recommend moving from on-prem to Citrix Cloud at this time? We think that Citrix has a very up-and-coming cloud story. They've got a lot of different offerings that are available to customers today. We've seen customers take advantage of those cloud offerings where it makes sense for them and start to migrate their workloads. Migrating that control plane to the Citrix Cloud is certainly something that will take some work off of your plate. We are actually managing a couple of customers who have taken advantage of that, and they have workloads in Azure or AWS or both. So yes, I believe it is time to start looking at that, but again, it depends on your own situation. That'd be something we'd love to come and whiteboard out for you. Another question someone has asked, I'd like to hear about the SLAs. I think we covered some of that. This question came in early. Support SLAs are customizable. Typically it's 2 hours, so we're getting somebody on the phone, and then the ongoing, for Sev 1s, it's typically less than 30 minutes in terms of how we respond and what we can provide to customers. So very flexible, and again, we customize that based upon our individual customer needs. That's all the questions that I see here. Just around the room once. Nope. So I think that's what we've got for today, folks. I really want to tell you, we really appreciate your time and have you coming and spending some time with us today. As a closeout, we're going to make an offer to our customers to evaluate Gotham Watch for free on us. You can either contact your Gotham account manager if you're currently a customer, or just send an email to manageservices@gothamtg.com. Whatever it is, an idea, the request, or just a interest in the Gotham Watch offer here, we can set this up to start monitoring your environment very quickly, get you some of that valuable information, and get you a taste of what it's like to work with the Gotham staff. So we'll leave that up there. Other than that, that's all we've got today. April, I'll kick it back to you to close up.
Great. Thanks again to our presenters and everyone who joined us. Just a quick reminder that this webinar was recorded, so the content will be available to anyone that was interested and could not attend today. If there is no further questions at this time, I want to wish everyone a great afternoon, and thank you for joining us.